Throwback Thursday. Pretty much this is what's going to happen. I'm going to show you the boat that I built before this. I'm going to show you the entire build and what I was thinking when I built it and what I did wrong. This layout that's on this boat here came from my previous boat. This is a much better improvement, and I'll show you the difference between the two. But essentially having the bed and the kitchen on this side and the driver's stand right there was all the same as my previous boat, as well as the angles of the wood on the front to make it so it's not square when it's pushing into the wind. Let's take a look at it. Look at that build. As always, I find cheap boats. This one, the motor wasn't working, but that was because some mice chewed on the wire and I was able to fix it right away. I paid $800 for this pontoon boat, and it did not come with a trailer. So I had to rent a trailer, and I took it out to test float it in the Milwaukee River because I lived in Wisconsin when I built this. Next thing I did was took everything off. Then I went through and painted and framed it. Those are 1x1 8-foot boards. They're very cheap, and you can stack them all in the back of your pickup truck and they won't weight it down or anything. They're very light. But I framed it all out with that. Next thing was 1/2-inch plywood and sticking the windows in. The windows are about $89 or $90, so that was the most expensive part of all of this. I mean, we're talking 1/2-inch plywood and 1x1 boards that are basically $1.50, I think. And then paint, another thing that costs a little bit more money because I used deck paint, the same paint that I used on the deck, I used on the house. Then I bought 2 doors and built the console. Now, before I put the doors on, which was the most expensive part, I test floated it. I wanted to be able to get out of the boat if I could, if something happened. I didn't have an ignition switch, so I hot wired it. This starts the motor, and this stops the motor. So basically, it was push button, stop, and start. And then I put the doors in. My biggest expense was that back door that was all glass, and I thought it made it a really great living space. At that point, I had to move it away from my house because people were complaining about me building it in my back alley. So I took it to a workshop, and then I would bring it in front of my house on weekends and basically work on it. I put the bed together using little storage spots, and all fresh live edge willow tree wood was cut for this, 2 inches thick, all the tables. And I just went and used some Thompson sealer with cherry wood coloring that really made it really look nice and brought it to a high level, even though it was 8 foot by 11 feet of a cab. And then I put the cedar boards on front, and that's where I hang my hammocks. That's my previous dog, Samantha Doberman, 98-pound girl. And this is Driftwood. Got her on the Milwaukee River, and I used to spend a couple of nights staying there, and my friends would come and pick me up and trailer me back. It was very luxurious inside and cozy with the leather recliner, leather seats, a nice leather comforter, fake wool carpet for the pets to lay on, and then everything was left plain for the dog to just kind of nap and relax. Now, of course, over the years of living in it, I added different things like the refrigerator and water and sink and stuff like that, which you can see in other videos. Samantha, do you want to be a boat dog? Do you want to go to the beach every day? So, I think just to answer a bunch of questions about the boat, yes, it was a pontoon boat. Yes, I had a lot of trouble with weight in it. Some of my friends are even bigger than me, and if I had 2 people on the boat and they went left or right, if we all went to the left side of the boat, it was almost dangerous and it would almost tip over. The other thing was the trailer I bought for it was a trailer that it wasn't a bunk trailer. It was the kind you could slide underneath and lift up and down. And the reason I did that was because I lived at campsites with that houseboat, and I would put the boat down at a campsite and then just use it like an RV for a couple of weeks, and then I'd go put it in the lake for a couple of weeks, and then I'd put it at the campsite. So that trailer really worked well, but that was the reason why the reason why I don't have the boat anymore is because I towed it a windy day and it blew off the trailer and smashed. I was going 25 miles an hour. It wasn't my speed that was affecting it. It was that I was in an overpass bridge over a river, and a gust of wind came and knocked it right off my trailer. Luckily, nobody got hurt, and it only cost me $1,000 to like clean up the mess and get it off the road and get rid of it, and that was it. And there was, while I had insurance on it, it was only like for injuries. I didn't, the whole boat itself didn't even cost me a total of $3,000, so I didn't have replacement cost on it. And when I lost it, and it took me about 5 days for it to set in. It was funny because a couple of my friends came and hung out because they knew I would be upset. And I kind of blew it off like it was nothing. And then about 5 days later, I realized, you know, I'm never going to see that boat again. Like, I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'll never see it again because it's completely destroyed. It's gone. But now I'll never tow a boat on that type of trailer. With this boat, I have a 3-bunk style where the tires are wider than the trailer, and the whole thing is almost 9 feet wide. And it probably could never tip over unless there was some kind of car accident or if I drove part of it off of a road or something like that. It also has a staircase in the front, so if I decide to use this as a camper and tow it to a campsite to leave it, you can leave it on the trailer and just walk up the tongue of the trailer like it's an RV with those 3 steps. And both the pets and I are able to do it real easy. Come here, man. So a bunch of people, about 100 people in the last 2 months, have gone back and watched from the beginning, episode 1 on up. If you do that, you'll see me starting out in smaller houseboats, living at marinas. You'll see me learn to sail. You'll see me buy the houseboat. You'll see me sell my house and start living off-grid. You'll see me buy the property and land for $3,000 and keeping my RV at a place for $7 a year taxes and figuring that all out. I originally lived in an RV for winter, and I lived in a sailboat for summer, and I would travel north and south. I was a snowbird, and I'll just follow the summer. I did that for 3 years, and my channel documents all of that. Living off-grid, living on BLM land without paying anything for 6 straight months with my RV, moving around 26 different states over 3 years. Then it documents me living in the houseboats during that whole time. The entire time that was going on, I was building houseboats and living at a marina with them, moving them from lakes to rivers. And then eventually I built this one down here, and I've been spending every winter in here since I built it, and I've been documenting this. This last year was the first time I stayed with no marina for an entire year in Tennessee, moving up and down between Kentucky and Alabama and Tennessee in the houseboat over the course of a full year without ever going to a marina with that houseboat. And that's what most people have seen. They haven't seen the sailboat parts, they haven't seen the RVing part, and they haven't seen the previous houseboats. So that's what this throwback is about. I learned a lot about what I did wrong. Number 1, the trailer. Shouldn't have done that. Number 2, the thickness of the wood that I used, it wasn't sturdy enough. Like you could almost walk through the side of the houseboat if you needed to or wanted to. If we hit a tree or if we hit something, that whole cabin would have collapsed really easily. Whereas this has enough structure in it. You've seen it. It's gone through some really serious storms. So I learned that. I learned that I had to put treated wood on the bottom because the bottom of that houseboat was just regular wood, and I painted it, but it got wet and it started to rot where I had to replace things within a year. So the bottom part that goes around the deck needs to be pressure treated, and the outside needs to be pressure treated, but the interior doesn't. I learned that the hard way. So I'm trying to think of any other questions that people would have between that houseboat and this houseboat. I was able to use that on Lake Michigan on calm days. I lived on it on Lake Michigan for months on end in a marina. When it's tied up to a dock, it really doesn't matter what kind of boat it is. Let's see. Total cost of that boat was $800 plus $1,200 for material. And the $1,200 was basically 6 windows and 2 doors. And the rest was just like screws that I found around my house and 5 sheets of plywood. The roof. That was the first time I did a rubber roof. I went to Home Depot and I bought a shed roof, and it comes with little metal brackets that go around the shed, and you can screw them in, and it comes with glue to glue the top down. But it was black, and that was my mistake. I bought a black roof on a boat with no insulation, so it would get really hot. Never brought it down to Tennessee. It was always up in Wisconsin, so most of the time I wasn't in hot weather, but it was a mistake. This roof is a rubber roof, RV roof that I ordered from Amazon. It's glued on and tacked with wood, and it's white. Huge difference. But they're both rubber, and none of them leaked. So if you have any questions, throw it in there. I'll hopefully answer it in the next video or respond back in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. Crickets somewhere over here and Rivers over there. They'll check in on the next episode. Bye. I remember when I was putting this thing together, we would sit and talk about how to fasten this thing down. You were like, put some cables, run some cables up and around, and I don't know, you came up with all these different ideas, and I was like, oh, it's just gonna fall apart. I don't need to worry about it too much. 3 years later, 4 years later, I'm actually like living in it. I've been living inside of this thing for, almost 2.5 months now. Air conditioner, AC unit, bomb. Isn't that crazy how those, like, in our heads, we were sitting there figuring this out and talking about it, and then it just all works. That's a clip from the episode right after I destroyed the boat, and every single person who watched it actually cried. Every single person, because it's sad, but at the same time, it shows the boat being on the side of the road and the police coming and the wreckers coming and us cleaning it up, and yeah, but it's sad. It is. But I learned a lot, and I'm now a person who has gone through losing a boat. And I realized that, gosh, if there's one lesson I could tell everyone, I have like 10 or 15 lessons that I've learned in the last 15 years of doing this stuff, and they're really important. One of them is I'm in a better boat. I never would have been in this boat if I didn't wreck the last boat. And this boat is so much better, so much safer. So that there's always going to be something that comes out of it is always going to be good if you just focus on the same thing and try to keep going. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Let me know. Talk to you later.